Remember the two really racist robots from the second Transformers movie?
Oh, jeez. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I am your host, Corey Tierrigan. Alongside me, as always, is the Jotun Toten, the Vault Dwelling, the Mayor of the Deep Stone Crypt. Wow. Josh, you really messed me up with that. Josh Finney. Flawless Josh Finney.
For context, we were laughing and saying really corny Transformers quotes from both the 80s and the Michael Bay movies before we went live. And as soon as Corey said, all right, I'm hitting the record button, I was like, hey, remember those really racist robots from Revenge of the Fallen? Sandwich Wiki, put the cube into my chest.
Oh. Oh, that's from a time when people thought
7?
it was funny to be racist in movies. Man. Hi, Josh. How are you? Besides, you know, enjoying yourself a little too much with these Transformers quotes.
It's fine. You know, I've needed the laugh so bad that anything would make me laugh right now, and that happens to be the thing that I'm fixated on. That and our good friend Ray Apollo is opening up a G4 box on Twitch right now.
Yeah.
And he was so late, and there were people from G4 in Twitch in his chat waiting for him, and I just came on it. I was like, "Oh, Ray's late. He's probably pooping." And they were like, "Oh my god!"
That would be like
that would be like just announce these things.
That would be like my 13-year-old nightmare is if like Twitch existed back then, and if G4 was in my chat and you would be in my chat saying Corey's probably pooping, and like someone like Morgan Webb would have read that when I was like 13.
Right? Oh man.
I met her at PAX. She's nice.
I'm good. It's been a busy week. It's been a busy week personally.
Yeah.
But also, you know, Forza came out, so that's kind of consumed the last week for me.
Yeah. I've been playing Guardians actually. So
that's my Black Friday pickup this year. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's probably what I would have said. Like, wait till Black Friday, but it's good. It's a good romp of a time.
It's going to be $30 on Black Friday, from what I understand. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think you're going to enjoy it, Josh.
I'm gonna get that, and I'm finally gonna play through the Mass Effect trilogy.
Ooh.
I've only ever played and beaten the first one, and I did that when it came out. That is actually probably the last time I beat a BioWare game.
Yeah.
So I look forward to playing the trilogy. I've been told by people for years I need to sit down and play it. I love a good sci-fi story. I like a good RPG.
You know what's funny is
maybe how I spend December and January.
You know what's funny is that Guardians of the Galaxy really makes me want to play Mass Effect again in a weird way.
I don't want to play 3 of these things in a row.
So, okay.
Yeah, I actually will play 3 of them in a row because I don't think I still have my Mass Effect save from the 3, and even if I did, it wouldn't transfer over to the Legendary Edition. So,
yeah. The thing is,
maybe I can actually save Rex this time.
The thing is, though, those games aren't even that long. Like that whole trilogy is about as long as one game today. So
I'm okay with that.
I mean,
I'm okay with that.
I think if you I know you, and you're going to want to do the side stuff because it actually enhances the story, but like, you can make it through that entire trilogy by doing just some of the side stuff and not all the side stuff, and probably under 40 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. I just, I'm gonna have those 3 games to get through, and I want to get through Guardians. But I mean, we're gonna have the anniversary event, and we're gonna have Halo on top of that. So it's gonna be a busy couple of months if I pick up those games. I'm thinking about finally getting Skyward Sword HD as well. That's the only 3D Zelda I've never played and beaten is Skyward Sword. So
it's also the only 3D Zelda I've never finished and beaten.
I need them to put it on sale, though. Like, it needs to go down from $50. When that sucker goes down, like, even used to, like, 25 or 30, it's an instant purchase for me. I feel bad about. I don't want to spend $50 on a game that's 10 years old.
Yeah.
That doesn't sit well with me, especially when I'm sitting here talking about, I'm going to get the Mass Effect trilogy, which is totally remastered, 4K, 60 frames, and it's 3 games, all the DLCs, and then Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
On a console that I rarely play. Yeah. My Switch is far and away the least played thing in my house. I need to finish Metroid.
Yeah.
I played so little of Metroid at this point.
I'm still trying to make my way through it, but I got so hooked on Guardians that Metroid just kind of fell to the wayside.
Metroid, I'll probably sit down and just bang it out over Thanksgiving, honestly.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a long week there. Girlfriend has to work.
Yeah.
The Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. She's got to work Thanksgiving, and she's got to work day after Thanksgiving. Yeah, my mom's been really ill, so we're not really doing anything for. Well, they are doing things for Thanksgiving, but I was not invited to Thanksgiving this year.
Oh, good job, Josh.
In a strange turn of events, this is the second time in 4 years that the same family member has forgotten, quote, to invite me to Thanksgiving. Yeah, so I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to bother. They're vegetarians anyways. I don't know that I want to go to Thanksgiving at their house.
Tofurkey.
So, Tofurkey, you are absolutely right. That's probably what's going to happen. I'll be having sides and beer.
Look, mashed potatoes, corn, and stuffing is a great Thanksgiving.
That's a legit meal.
Yeah.
So, no, I will probably be at home enjoying Metroid Dread and the first 2 episodes of Hawkeye.
Yeah, because Hawkeye drops on my birthday, so I will be watching that on my birthday.
That's right. Corey has a birthday coming up.
I do. No show that week, though, by the way.
No show that week. We have one more show before the end of November. Next week is going to be our last one for November.
I know. Yeah, just to, make everybody aware.
Note.
Yeah. Programming note, as the pros say, like Josh. So enjoy your Thanksgiving, everybody. Or if you're not...
I know that releasing an episode on the 19th and saying, this is our last one for the month feels a little weird.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we come back, like our next show would be December 3rd. So it's all anniversary content for the rest of the year, basically.
Yeah. Also, trying to line up some special guests, too. So.
Ooh la la.
Josh, I already told you one of them.
You did. I'm very excited if we're able to nail that one down.
Yeah. So you gotta get back on that to confirm, but tentative that one.
It's good. It's gonna be a fun end of the year.
Yes, it is. It's gonna be a great time.
Regardless of special guests or not, it's gonna be a good end of the year. We've got some stuff for you all. Debating when I want to put it out, but I was going to do a one-shot lore corner episode. Just talking about Savathun and kind of Savathun and also recapping the story that we've gone through this year.
Yeah.
As a Witch Queen primer for anybody who wants it. It's a little bit hard to do without the end of... I keep trying to call it Festival of the Lost. It's Season of the Lost.
Yeah.
I want to just kind of do the story beats that have gotten us here. Everything up to the finale of Season of the Lost. That obviously won't be in it, but we're not getting that until end of January, beginning of February anyways.
Right.
And I don't really want to wait that long to put it out. We've told you guys, we've talked about doing Spartan Slayers, doing a one-off for some Halo stuff. Once we're able to work through the campaign, maybe get our friend Joe in here and talk about that. Talk about the multiplayer and whatnot. But there is, if this week is any indication, there is a lot of anniversary content we're going to know about before it actually releases on the 7th. So this week, I expected this week to be our dead week. It is certainly not. What we got this week, I didn't expect until the 3rd of December.
Yeah, I was like finishing some stuff up at work today. I was like, oh, Josh, whatever. And you were telling me some things. I was like, well, at least it's a short week. You're like, you obviously didn't read the TWAB. I'm like, nope, not yet.
As I was reading this up at the hospital today, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is a lot." So, Corey, let's just jump right into it instead of talking about it.
Let's get into the TWAB.
The TWAB. We're gonna skip around in it a little bit this week. I will tell you right now, we're not covering. There's some stuff about Trials. We're not talking about it. I'm done talking about Trials.
Yep.
There is one note here, real fast. Card-based matchmaking is back. Flawless Pool is going to turn on Sunday mornings at reset. But going forward, We are looking at adding end match rewards prior to getting a 7-win card, making it more worthwhile to play in the flawless pool, and increasing rep gain, especially in the later ranks. We're still firming up plans, so expect more information on rewards in December. Cool. Whenever we get that information is the next time we're talking about trials. We're done. No more trials talk.
Zero trials talk, sir.
Zero trials talk, unless they happen to do Adept Reed's Regret this weekend, in which case you'll hear me talk about it for like 15 minutes next week. So pray and hope that it's Eye of Soul or something I don't care about. Pew pew!
Pew pew!
Pew pew. That is actually what it's titled. This is all about the Sandbox updates and the weapon tunings for the anniversary pack. This is what I was talking about.
Wait, you missed the thing at the very top.
I said we're coming back. We're jumping around.
Okay.
Jumping around.
Okay. Pew pew.
We're gonna come back. Pew pew. We've got Chris Proctor in the TWAB this week. He is the stage design lead, and he is here. He's gonna kind of run us through a lot of this stuff. Actually, as we're doing this right now, he is on DCP tonight. I would encourage going and listening to that. I really like hearing Chris and a lot of the design team over at Bungie, the weapons lead and balancers. I love hearing them talk about it. Of course, there was that firing line interview from the beginning of the summer that was just excellent over there with Fallout Plays. He did one with some of the guys from Bungie. It was great. And Joe Blackburn's done some stuff over there too. Go listen to them. We love them. He's going to break that. First, we're going to go into archetypes. So weapon archetypes. There's been a lot of complaints around shotguns, specifically with the nerf to Fellwinter's. It doesn't feel like I'm getting shotgun nearly as much in Crucible, which is really nice. But Chaperone is still a problem. That thing's practically a sniper. You can get killed from forever away with that. It's not a high-risk weapon, in my opinion. Chaperone's always kind of had that problem. It's just it was always dwarfed by bigger problems. And now with the nerf to Fellwinter's, God, I lost my train of thought again. With the nerf to Fellwinter's, we've seen a pretty big uptick in Chaperone usage. So what he says here, it's Season 11, we wanted to see if slugs could be viable in PvE with high enough reward for the risk of being close and the time it takes to aim it ahead. Good news, they're viable. We all know that. That became the go-to strategy for things like Taniks, right? You pop the Divinity Bubble on them, you get close, and bam, 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 just unload as many shotguns as you can into him. We did it on Atheon also. It's been a great go-to strategy for a lot of bosses. I do like what he says here, though. They currently outclass pellet shotguns and many other special ammo options, not to mention being part of a dominant boss melt tactic. We'd like to equalize them a bit, but since pellet shotguns are easier to use than slugs, they don't need as large a bump. So slug shotgun PvE damage will go from 30% to 20%. Right now on paper, that sounds pretty fair. It's kind of like the Anarchy nerf in a way, right? Like, you're gonna still see the effect of it, but it might not be the go-to option. I think there are some go-to options that we're going to discuss later in the TWAB that we're going to see a lot more of. And then pellet shotguns, a 10% PvE damage bonus. This might make like just regular old shotguns finally viable again in PvE. I can't tell you the last time I ran a regular shotgun in PvE content. Like, First and Last Out and Heritage are probably the only shotties I've run. Well, of that archetype. So slugs are the only thing I've run in PvE content probably in the last year and a half. Probably since Season of Arrivals. That's the only thing that I've run if I've run shotguns. And a year and a half, 18 months is too long to ignore a complete type of weapon. And I think that's kind of what they're getting at here. Linear fusion rifles. I think we've all been enjoying the buff to linears and to fusion rifles in general this season. It's been season of the VOOP in a lot of ways. They're extra hot right now because of the particle deconstruction mod. They can't compete with the ease of using other damage option. Last time they got a precision damage buff. This time it's a flat damage bump. PvE damage will be increased by 10% to all linear fusion rifles. This includes exotics. So Arbalest and Sleeper Stimulant are getting it. That's awesome news.
Yeah. That's
awesome news. There's going to be some changes to Arbalest farther down in this that I think that's about to become one of the premier go-to Grandmaster and dungeon weapons.
Yeah.
So this is really cool to see. I really like this a lot. I personally like Arbalest a ton, so I'm very excited to have a reason to use it in PvE content again. I think this is an example of planning ahead, right? Because right now, what we're seeing, the raw numbers for things like Sleeper Stimulant and Threaded Needle Threaded Needle. You get that and Imperial Needle mixed up a little bit. Is we're seeing like 100K a hit on some of these. And particle deconstruction plays such a big part in that. So I think they're kind of looking ahead and saying, okay, they're going to be extra, extra hot for a couple of months, but these changes will stay with us into the Witch Queen. Like I think we're getting a lot of these buffs now because they're planning for the future. They want to see how hot does this make things, and okay, when we take this mod away, is it going to kind of come back down to earth? And I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to see those linear fusions drop off when particle deconstruction leaves the game, but they're going to retain almost the same amount of damage as a result of this buff. I think that's a pretty big deal. Sleeper obviously has become a top tier option again. I never would have thought that Threaded Needle would be one, but here we are. Caster Swords, heavy attack ammo cost is going to go from 8 to 5. If you use a Caster Sword, cool. I personally don't. I occasionally used one in Gambit, but that's about it. I don't really see a need to use them. They're just not as good as running in with Guillotine or Lament, frankly, in my opinion. Bows. Damage versus rank and file enemies will be increased by 10%. Cool. That makes them even better than they are right now. Of course, we're all getting intimate with bows. That's one of the only overload mods that we have for Grandmaster Nightfalls right now. And in sidearms and fusion rifles. This is kind of a funky fix they had to do. It's kind of more of a technical fix than anything. But ancient data entry error. Sidearm and fusion rifle projectiles were non-hit scan. Behind the scenes, the engine does math converting a projectile from non-hit scan to hit scan if it would cover a specific distance in one frame. So this would only occur running at 60 frames or higher. And it was a specific group of the community that noticed this and told Bungie about it. So sidearm and fusion rifle projectile speed from 999 to 9999, which makes them hit scan regardless of frame rate. Cool. That is super technical. There's a linked YouTube video here if you're curious. Go crazy. The meat of this, though, is there are changes to exotics coming, to perks, and to mods. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. The one that everyone wants to know about, Vex Mythoclast. I love the admission here. Yeah, we overbuffed this. And it's kept in check by the peak shot potential of hand cannons. It's definitely melting faces. At playtest, we feel it's still strong enough to be desirable without feeling free. Aim assist stat will be reduced by 25, and I think that's a huge part, because you just hold the trigger down and fire, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're on controller, it's just, oh my god, like, why would you use anything else?
Yeah.
I still think the rate of fire does outclass. Like, Mythoclast is easy to outplay. If they get the drop on you, you're fucked. But you can outplay it if you're fighting one head on.
Yeah.
Like they said, with hand cannons, pulses, etc., you can still outplay Mythoclast, I think, if you're peeking. Yeah. Reduce the linear fusion rifle mode aim assist cone scaler from 1.1 to 1.05, and now requires 3 eliminations for full overcharge instead of 2. That was the big one for me. It is now. I will still use it in trials, but I don't know that it'll be my go-to anymore, because it used to be, okay, if I can pop the first 2 elims, okay, I convert to linear, bam, pop the last guy right away. Right away. It's so easy to do it. I don't have that option anymore. Now, you will not get that linear mode unless they've gotten reses and you've had the gun up for all of your kills.
Right.
So, again, high risk, high reward, but is it just worth using something like Arbalest instead at that point?
Right.
I think these are questions that, and again, I'm glad we have 3 months to kind of experiment here, right? There's time to revert things, but this is a change I was calling for personally, despite how much I've used Mythoclast in PvP since getting it. I do think that it was a bit too much of a crutch in modes like Trials. I can't tell you the amount of times I'd be in a 3-on-2 or a 3-on-1, and I'd get 2 kills and be able to just get the last guy right away.
Right.
And it wasn't anything because of my skill. There was clearly some aim assist help going on. So I like that. And the 3 to 2, I think the 2 to 3 jump is the biggest thing that we needed to see with this gun. But it's remaining intact for PvE, which was also the other concern I had. That I play the majority of my game in PvE. This is still a top tier option. So especially ad clear, but you cannot. God, it's been a great nightfall weapon this season. That's what I'm running for my unstoppable weapons. Is I have Mythoclast slapped on. It's fantastic. There is a lot of Fighting Lion stuff here. So I'm gonna try and condense this. It's a very small portion of the community, but a dedicated part that wanted Fighting Lion looked at again. Wasn't a specific problem, but giving increasing frustration with breach grenade launchers and Crucible. It seemed like a mistake to hear. We hear you, and here's an infinite ammo version of the thing you're frustrated about in the same patch. It should be clear that a full nerf isn't needed, so we're adjusting it. It's not a rollback. There's still a difference between almost infinite ammo and actually infinite ammo and how weapons are used. In playtests where we tried to abuse infinite ammo, it was extraordinarily oppressive, much more so than we expected, given it had a ton of ammo previously. Remove the multi-hit requirements, i.e. dealing any damage will grant the buff. Increase the Fighting Lion buff to the reload stat from plus 50 to plus 70. Reloads will still be slow if you miss, but if you land any damage, Fighting Lion will reload faster than it did before the nerf. Increase buff duration to 7 seconds. I think so few people use Fighting Lion that I don't expect this to be like some massive uptick. But it's pretty clear they're watching this one. I think of any of the changes that they're making to weapons that we're going to go over today, this is the one they're going to watch the most, because if you're a top tier player, I think you're going to be able to abuse it in a lot of ways, despite them saying that they were able to abuse it, but they think they've found a healthy balance. I think you're still going to have some top tier players that are just determined to make it work. And kudos to you. I have never been able to get the hang of Fighting Lion, but kudos to you if you were able to use it and you enjoy using it. If you kill me with it, I'm going to hate you.
And then we'll complain about it for 20 minutes on this thing.
And then, you'll get your own segment on Tower Casuals, me bitching about it. Arbalest. We always wanted this to have utility in high difficulty PvE, but lack of champion mods prevented that. And it's all about shield breaking already, so we're fixing that. Anti-barrier has now been baked into Arbalest. Everyone rejoices. That combined with the plus 10 buff to linear fusion rifles is extremely exciting. I'm very, very here for it. It's hard for me to imagine for Grandmasters putting on another primary. Like this will unless I need a specific exotic in the heavy slot, or I need to be the divinity bitch, this will probably be my go-to going forward. I think it all depends also on, in future seasons, what the anti-barrier mod is. Like, if it's something like a pulse or a scout, okay, yeah, I'll probably still run them, but if it's just gonna be auto rifle again, I'll probably run this. I'll run this with something else in my, I don't know, an energy pulse or something. There's plenty of other options that you can run, nail some of those good old elemental weapons that we like to talk about. We're going to talk about those again farther down too. Sleeper stimulant. There wasn't a large enough gulf between Sleeper and the best linear fusion rifles. So while it benefits from the 10% damage buff above, really this time, we've given it additional love. Magazine size increased from 3 to 4. PvE damage is increased by 6%. So this thing is getting a 16% buff. I think that pretty clearly makes it the go-to for heavy, long-distance damage. I can't wait to see all the lasers flying at Atheon again. So many of us have been using Reed's Regret and Imperial Needle. I want to see all the lasers just bouncing everywhere.
I
want to see it go nuts. I'm ready. We did a Prophecy run a few weeks ago. I guess it wasn't even a few weeks ago. It was a couple now. A1 Johnny, myself, and his girlfriend Amanda all ran through it, and she, without the catalyst, did like 3 million damage using just Sleeper on the boss. So, yeah, give another 16% to that. I'm cool with it. It's pretty clear that it's only going to affect PvE, so it shouldn't put Gambit too far out of whack. It shouldn't put PvP I think you're still okay with this
Mm-hmm.
as a heavy option. Suros's dual receiver mode will now grant the following in addition to its current effects: plus 30 range and plus 3 zoom, which is cool. Dual receiver is when you, I want to say that's, God, it's been forever since I used Suros. I think that's when you zoom in. And they felt that it always made it a worse 360 auto rifle. But fixing that is a straightforward stat bump. So it's going to be a high-impact auto rifle, basically. Sounds cool. I'll definitely play with Suros again. I haven't used Suros a whole lot since D1. I just have never really liked how it feels in the D2 sandbox. And that's just me personally. I know it's a great option. I have a friend who uses it a lot in Crucible. I've just never been able to get the hang of it. Just the way that I play and how I feel like D2 is in a lot of ways faster paced.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Which is rich coming from a guy who fires Vex with a class, and it's a 360. So. God, we are not even halfway through the exotics on this list. Cryesthesia. Given the state of stasis and PvP at the start of Season 14, we deliberately shipped this weapon in a weak state, which physically hurt us, but it was the right decision. Not wanting to contribute to the problem. Now we've had more time to evaluate the state of the sandbox. We've reworked it to address its weakness in PvE, specifically fire on release with the charge trigger losing all ammo on firing the freezing shot. That was a pretty big complaint. So variable trigger has been removed completely. Now fires on trigger press instead of release. This will make it feel much more responsive. Charge shot, move to special reload. Getting a final blow with Cryesthesia enables access to the special reload. Once the charge shot is fired, the weapon reverts back to its standard normal sidearm mode, and it does not cost your entire magazine. Charge shot also causes an AoE, which freezes AI and slows players. Direct hits will still freeze. This sounds great.
Yeah.
In theory, this sounds great. Is this enough to get me to take off my Peacebound, though?
No. Probably
I
not.
think that, yeah, right. I think for me, that's like the number one question. Is this enough for me to give up Peacebound and whatever exotic I would be running? You know, Sleeper, Vex, Whisper of the Worm. We're going to get to that one next, I think. Is that enough to make me give up one of those? And the answer for me right now is TBD. I do look forward to playing with this, especially because I'm going to have 3 months to play around in the sandbox with these changes. That 6-person event's going to be perfect for doing this. Maybe the new dungeon is. But I don't like that sidearm to begin with. Part of it's because it is weak, but it's just I feel like I have so many other... If I'm going to run a sidearm, I've got at least 3 legendary options and 1 exotic option that I would run before even considering Cryesthesia. In case you're wondering, I like to run Fool's Remedy, Punched Out, and of course Peacebound a lot. And I like Devil's Ruin a lot as an exotic. Ironically, more for Nightfalls than anything. But if this, on paper, these sounds like good changes. I want to see how it plays and how it works with the stasis subclasses now that they've been changed. Also, since this, I haven't thought about this gun since the day it came into the game. I played with it for like 2 rounds of Crucible and went, I'm done. I'm good. But I've had a buddy take it into trials and had some pretty decent success with it. Our friend Ray really likes to play with it. So, I don't know. Question mark?
Big old question mark.
I think this could be really fun. And again, like for me, it just comes down to like, does the AoE effect and the charge shot, does that feel better than having Headstone? That's the ultimate question here. And for me right now, I would probably say a hard pass.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, when you
just the way that I have my Hunter built, right? I'm not saying like this is going to be a bad option for anybody. Just the way that my Hunter is built, I can pop those headshots, especially in. Oh God, I just smacked my microphone. Sorry,
smacked
if that
it. He smacked it real good.
If I'm running around in PvE, I'm almost certainly going to use Peacebound over this.
Yeah.
Because I've got the stasis crystals popping. I generate a stasis crystal when I throw my Duskfield grenades, and it sucks everybody in. I throw my shurikens to pop a lot of these. I don't know. I just don't know if the cost benefit is there. But again, like, hey, I'm going to have to go experiment in the EDZ, right?
Dude, Peacebound is so good. Like, if you get
Peacebound it's stupid good if you get the right rolls on it. Like, I don't even want to be like, oh my god, my headstone. Like, headstone is great. Don't get me. I really enjoy my headstone roll, but I almost enjoy my snapshots killing wind roll more.
yeah.
I don't know. It's so good. Leviathan's Breath. There's something we haven't thought about in a couple of years.
I mean, to be fair, I haven't thought about it almost ever.
I've used it maybe 3 times in my life.
Yeah.
The bow is underused. Yeah, it feels like an understatement. So we wanted to give it a bump while also making the catalyst more interesting. Here's the juicy part. Expect this type of catalyst tweak to become more common moving forward. This catalyst now grants the Archer's Tempo perk in addition to its other effects. That was a big complaint, especially with a lot of the year 1 and year 2 catalysts, is they didn't do anything unique other than like, oh, there were a couple stat bumps. Whoopee.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if I can. I'm trying to find what the catalyst does in this game. God damn it! Because I've never unlocked. I have the catalyst. I just never done it. Leviathan's Breath catalyst. I should have had this pulled up. Colossal Quiver increases quiver size by 5, and that's cool because I mean you only get a couple of arrows. It's not unlimited arrows like special and primary bows are. I mean it's a quality and it's a quality of life perk. So that's cool. That combined with Archer's Tempo does give you 2 things that we see on. Well, we don't see the increased quiver on regular bows. Well, Archer's Tempo is a pretty common perk. So cool. Maybe that gives a little bit more viability to it. I still don't think that this is going to be used hardly ever. It's cool. I like when things are put into different slots, but when you've got the other buffs that we're about to talk Whisper of the Worm and Darcy, like both are going to be significantly better options than this. I just don't. It's a fun weapon to use. And I think it has a place in the sandbox, but not a big place, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very niche weapon. Like if you're rocking that in endgame content, hats off to you. I've seen people use it in Gambit. That's usually where I see it. Invaders come in with it and just wipe the floor.
Right.
Because I think when you pick up a brick, you get like 8 to 10 shots with it. When you pick up a heavy brick, hey, if you've got that catalyst, you got 5 arrows ready to go. So. Whisper of the Worm. This is by far what I'm most excited about here. And we had this teased on Twitter a few weeks ago, and I've been just eagerly awaiting to see what they're going to do here. The original DPS King has fallen out of favor. The delay before the damage buff kicking in, making the weapon less usable in short damage phases, and optimal sustained damage requiring all crit hits but not sufficiently rewarding precision. Reduced delay on activating Whispered Breathing from the catalyst from 2.1 to 1.2 seconds. White Nail refill changed. Was 3 from inventory, but now pulls 2 from inventory and 1 from thin air. So you're going to burn through your ammo a lot less if you're hitting those precision shots. And increased PvE damage by 10%. Very, very, very excited for this. I love using Whisper, but the last time I really used Whisper was Scourge of the Past. I think I was still running that. I was still running it in Scourge of the Past last summer, even after all the nerfs. Just because you're sitting there firing into a big servitor. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
I expect this to be a pretty big option for Grandmaster Nightfalls going forward. I do think so. We have a question this week. I want to address the question right now.
All right. Questions.
I got to pull the question up. It's on our Twitter feed. I apologize for not having it right away. What do you guys think?
Who's it from,
DPS
Josh?
Loadout will be next season, and that comes from Joe over on Twitter. Joe, I don't know how to pronounce your Twitter handle. I'm so sorry. So I'm going by the name you have posted there. Meta DPS Loadout, man, in that heavy slot,
man,
you're gonna be running either sleep or stimulant. Whisper of the Worm or Darcy. We're about to get to Darcy.
Yeah.
I don't know. For raids, for anything else, I don't know what you possibly run in that heavy slot, unless Gallarhorn is just game-changing.
Right.
Which I feel like with these buffs, they're going to let Gallarhorn come in real hot and then kind of bring it down to earth right before Witch Queen. Let it run rampant with the Catalyst.
Yeah, it's gonna be the fun weapon you get because of the event, and everybody's gonna use it, and they're gonna nerf it, and then you're just gonna use the other weapons, right? Like, that seems to be what it's gonna be like.
I'm kind of okay with that. I mean, we already have one really obnoxious tracking rocket launcher with Eyes of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
I really look forward to playing around with Gallarhorn, but like you said, other than me using it as like a niche, oh my god, Gallarhorn's back, and me running around just shooting my friends in private Crucible matches with it, and in Mayhem, I don't know like what play. The Gallarhorn has been outclassed by so many weapons at this point in this game. Like, Sleeper Stimulant, as it exists with these changes coming, will be more powerful than Gallarhorn ever was statistically in Destiny 1. Just with how the numbers and health bars and sandboxes have changed between the games.
Mm-hmm.
Xenophage, when it was at the height of its power, definitely more powerful than D1 Gallarhorn.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had even started questioning, is there a place for Gallarhorn even in Destiny 2, other than just, it's the most famous weapon in the series history.
Right.
It's like trying to do a Halo game. I mean, it's reached, I should rephrase, it's like trying to do Halo without putting a Warthog in there. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, this has reached the fabled status that the Halo 1 Magnum did. Mm-hmm. That the Halo 2 battle rifle has.
Yeah.
Ironic that they're all Bungie weapons, right? That Oddjob's hat in fucking GoldenEye did.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, not GoldenEye. God, I'm thinking Nightfire is where I was using Oddjob's hat. I don't remember if he's in GoldenEye or not.
He is. People used him because he was the smallest character and hardest to hit.
Gotcha. Yeah. I remember like the briefcase gun or the laptop guns from Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
Like, there are weapons through these shooters and multiplayer games that we think of, and when you say Destiny and you say, name me one weapon from Destiny, I think the one that most people are going to throw out there is Gallarhorn. Like, It was I remember the first Gallarhorn day when it finally got sold at Xur at the end of year 1, how much of a celebration that was. And I've never seen that kind of fervor for a specific weapon in any game ever or since.
Mm-hmm.
So I really, really look forward to seeing what they're going to do with Gallarhorn.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like, it's going to have to feel unique because its perks have kind of been distributed between other rocket launchers now.
Yeah. Remember when, going back to when Xur sold it, remember when the Minnesota Vikings tweeted, oh, it's cool to see Gallarhorn trending because their big horn in the stadium is called Gallarhorn?
I do remember. Yeah.
And then everybody's like, we're not talking about you, Vikings. Calm down.
No, nobody has ever talked about the Vikings in a positive manner like that. We only talk about you when Blair Walsh misses field goals and lets the Seahawks go to the next round.
Oh, man. Remember that contract they signed Kirk Cousins to? God.
I do. I hope they re-sign him.
He's playing okay this season.
I don't care. They're still terrible. They're 3-5. What's their excuse? Ours was our quarterback broke his finger and was out for a month. First time he's ever missed a start in his entire career. Anyways, getting back to the Destiny of it all. The Whisper changes sound really cool. This does bring up a question that I have, though, which is, it's been a year. What is the path to getting the Outbreak perfected and Whisper of the Worm Catalyst in this game?
You think there are drops in the dungeon?
So I was going to get to that. I think they are, but so here's my only issue with those. Those are weapons you can buy out of the kiosks, and I think locking catalysts for guns that anybody can access behind dungeon content, behind paid content, is really shitty. I think if anything, they should be rewards for like doing a legendary version of the new activity, the new 6-person activity that everyone's going to get to play, like Shores of Eternity or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a really cool place for these to drop. Or just put them into the game. I mean, look how quickly they gave away Trinity Ghoul and Leviathan's Breath, and the Telesto Catalyst, I believe, has come back now.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can get that out of Nightfalls.
Mm-hmm.
But they just handed them to us. I'm not saying I just want things dropped into my lap, especially for what's about to be a DPS machine, but those are the only two catalysts we're missing. At least let me use my spoils of conquest from the raid to buy them, or use an exotic cipher or something. I would fork out for that so quickly for those two weapons. Like I really like Outbreak. It's just I need an exotic in other slots too often now, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But Outbreak is still a great weapon.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
It's still great, and I'd really enjoy having Catalyst with that, with the Seekers.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one that's getting a change is Darcy. Darcy has only ever been viable in one encounter for me. When Darcy was good, I was not playing. I want to preface it with that. I did not play a lot of Year 1 of Destiny 2. I know this was a DPS machine back in the Leviathan and Spyro Stars days.
Mm-hmm.
But Darcy has fallen behind, to put it lightly. The only time I've ever pulled Darcy out as a viable option is, again, Scourge of the Past. I remember the first time I ran that saying I didn't have a specific weapon, and they said, well, if you don't have that, pull out Darcy. And I was like, Darcy? They said, yeah, just pull it out, trust me. And yeah, Darcy was great. So, their little explanation here. Darcy has fallen behind as other options have been buffed, and its damage is dependent on crits while also requiring 100% time on target. So we've improved the ease of use and bumped the damage up. Reduced flinch, recoil, and accuracy degradation by 50% while Personal Assistant is active. Personal Assistant now has a 1-second delay before deactivating when off target. It used to be instant. Increased damage in PvE by 20%. That launches into that upper echelon with Whisper of the Worm and Sleeper for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think pretty instantly, those three, even without any seasonal mods, are probably your go-to perks. Those are probably your go-to exotics, especially for the heavy slot, for any sort of endgame content. I think those are probably three of your most viable choices you'll be able to use going forward. And obviously, snipers and linear fusions are not going to work for every single boss. You need a fairly prominent crit spot. Something like Atheon, it's not a bad decision, but Atheon can be a little bit hard to hit that hitbox sometimes. And I think this is where things like Divinity are really going to come back into play next season, is just shoot the bubble. Shoot the bubble. It counts as your crit. But things like Taniks, I mean, you're pretty close to Taniks. Like, I could tell you from experience, I've tried using a sniper on Taniks. It's not a great time unless you got that Divinity bubble. A little bit hard to hit his head. You got debris flying all around you. But I think for the vast majority of Nightfall bosses, this is probably a really good. These are going to be really, really good options for you. When you look at high-end PvE, when you look at dungeon bosses, you look at Duel and Karu, or you look at the Kel Echo. And it's hard for me to not imagine using these. I got tripped up on my phrasing. It's hard to imagine not using these weapons. So, and I think with them being, limited magazines, I think that'll encourage you to, conserve ammo. But also, Whisper, you're going to lose your ammo less and less because White Nail is going to be active, and so you're going to get 2 from your reserves, 1 from thin air. That's a big deal, especially if you've got reserves and ammo finders on. I mean, I think the changes that have been done to these are great for the magazine sizes, but I think it also makes it much more critical that you have those reserves on to have as much spare ammunition as possible for something like Whisper of the Worm, but also reloaders for things like Sleeper Stimulant. Like, Linear Fusion Loader is going to be just a massive asset to that gun, especially with the bigger magazine size.
Yeah.
Malfeasance. For a weapon all about explosions, this hand cannon's explosions were underwhelming. Increased explosion damage by 50%. Thanks for that, guys. Really look forward to getting killed with that more. Dead Man's Tale. I'm just moving on because Malfeasance makes me angry. Dead Man's Tale. We've seen the scout rifle's usage drop dramatically on console since the recent nerf, so we spent some time tuning it in a way that benefits controller much more than mouse and keyboard. We don't believe this buff will improve the weapon much on mouse and keyboard. Specifically touching hip fire with the catalyst. This isn't actually branching the tuning between input devices, but the bits we touched are either only present or are much more impactful on controller. Increased reticle friction fall off distance. Less recoil, improved accuracy. Cool. I know that myself and Joe are still in the Church of the Dead Man's Tale in PvE or PvP quite a bit. I look forward to using this, but with these buffs and with some things that we're going to get into down below, if you do not yet have a Vorpal Dead Man's Tale, I cannot urge you enough to go run Presage, get that, and complete the catalyst for the gun. I cannot urge it enough for you.
Yeah.
The changes that they made to Vorpal, we're almost out of the exotics and getting down to perks. If I'm not running Whisper or Sleeper in my heavy slot, chances are you're going to see me running Deadman's a lot more in PvE content, because I really do enjoy how it fires. Not just hip fire, but I really enjoy aiming down the sights with this gun. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a good gun, and surprisingly, the rate of fire actually feels really good on it for me.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
I think having the dodge reload also helps.
Yeah.
But I do really still enjoy it. The Heir Apparent Catalyst, remember how ridiculous that shield is on that gun? When you spin it up and you're shooting it, in PvP, it's almost impossible to take that shield down unless you have multiple people ambushing the person that's using it. You simply cannot drop that shield.
Yeah.
So they've reduced the resistance against players has been dropped from 75% to 25%. Cool. I don't encounter it too much, but when I do, it's usually an Iron Banner, and it makes me, or in Mayhem, and it makes me so salty I don't want to play. Lawrence Driver, this season's exotic in the season pass. Bonus ability energy feels extraneous when damage buff is so strong, and we're limiting certain weapon sources of ability energy. Removed ability energy regeneration on picking up a telemetry. Okay, cool. I personally don't use this a whole lot. It's not that I don't like the gun. It's just, again, for my particular build, I have a lot of other things I'm using. I'm not really running special linears right now. But this special linear, I do look forward to running Arbalist, though, so sorry, Lori, I'm still not going to use you. Oh, well. Traveler's Chosen, our final exotic. We're finally done. This is the biggest tune-up of exotics we've seen probably since Beyond Light itself came out, I would say. Ability energy granted from the perk was on a curve that isn't intuitively understood. Similar to Lawrence Driver, it seemed appropriate to adjust this in PvE. The changes for both this Lawrence Driver and the Heir Apparent Catalyst are not in PvE. Traveler's Chosen now grants 10% ability energy per stack on activation, was previously more generous on low stacks, less generous on high stacks. Average and amount for 10 stacks are unchanged. Reduced stacks granted on a Guardian defeat from 3 to 2. So it's not going to be quite as dominant. Still a really, really, really good option, though. If you like sidearms, Traveler's Chosen, make a build around it. I cannot encourage that enough. If you need any advice, hit up A1 Johnny. He uses this so much.
A1
really,
Johnny.
really enjoys it. A1 Johnny, yeah. That old bastard.
That old chestnut.
Old walnut. Yeah, he really enjoys running this gun. He has builds specifically for it. He is the guy to talk to, not me. I personally never got the hang of it. When this came out, I was still using Last Hope a lot before that got sunset, and I shifted over to being a Fool's Remedy guy full time until Punching Out and Peacebound came out this season. Perks. Look at see what we have here. I'm getting.
Look at this TWAB, man. Dry. We got.
I have already finished my Coke, but we have some perks to get through, and then we have.
Josh about to crack open some more Coke.
God, we do have a little corner. Fuck. Perks. Adrenaline Junkie. Adrenaline Junkie sucks. Let's be honest. Adrenaline Junkie was pretty much an auto dismantle for me. The path of least resistance was making it live up to its dev name, which was Grenade Buckler. Eliminations with the weapon can add single damage stacks or extend existing ones. Grenade eliminations boost the stacks immediately to ×5. Lower duration to compensate for weapon activation. I don't really understand Adrenaline Junkie that much. And part of that's probably because I delete every single roll with this gun on it. I'm going to withhold judgment on if this is good or not, personally, until I see people who are much more knowledgeable about the Sandbox talk about it. So, aka, I'm going to wait for Astacross to talk about it. He's probably got his video going up tonight talking about these changes. I want to see what him and Fallout Plays, specifically those guys, what they have to say about this. Maybe what Cool Guy has to say. I think those three are probably the most knowledgeable about the actual Sandbox that I enjoy watching.
Mm-hmm.
So I would keep your eyes peeled for anything they have to say about Adrenaline Junkie. Way more knowledgeable than myself, and I would presume Corey are on the subject.
Yes, you are correct.
However, these next two I could definitely talk to. I'm very excited about these. Vorpal Weapon.
Yeah.
Grants 15% bonus damage against all targets. I'm going to use my heavy weapon on. This was a non-choice and sucked the air out of the room for other damage perks. At the same time, it was failing its original role, giving players a reason to run a primary weapon against tough targets. It was 15% damage on all weapons. Now, 10% on heavy weapons, 15 on special, 20% on primary. This is why I was saying I think I have one in my vault. I need to go get on and make sure. We have like 9 weeks left to grind out these rolls. But getting a Vorpal Deadman's just shot to the top of my to-do list for the rest of this season.
Mm-hmm. I keep it doesn't matter what weapon it is. I keep every weapon with Vorpal on it. Just doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you the last time I deleted a shotgun or, like they say here, a heavy weapon with Vorpal on it. If it's something that's viable that I'm going to be using, I can't tell you the last time I deleted it. So I need to make sure, because I've gotten so many I've gotten like 30 Dead Man's Tales over the year. I need to make sure I've saved one with Vorpal. I do have 4 times the charm. I have subsistence. I don't remember if I saved the Vorpal. And it's important to note, no change to damage versus players using their super. So this sucker is going to be unchanged in PvP. I'm very excited. I think Dead Man's with Vorpal is a viable option in 6-person PvP again.
Mm-hmm.
I look really forward to using this. I like scouts more than any other primary in the game. Mm-hmm. I like scouts and I like pulses. Mm-hmm. So I really, really, really look forward to building around Deadman's again. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of fun with it in Season of the Chosen. I even used it a lot during Splicer. Yeah, I definitely fell off probably partway through the summer around the time of Solstice. I think that's when the first big nerf to it came.
Yeah.
I fell off a bit. But man, it was a glorious 6 months I spent with that gun. I look forward to spending a lot more time. Because there's plenty of, with how good Threaded Needle is, for example, you can conceivably make a great combo with this as your primary and Threaded Needle as your heavy. Mm-hmm. And kind of dealer's choice for that secondary slot, right? Like you could run, I probably would run that with Dead Man's punching out or punching out / Fool's Remedy, and then Threaded Needle for my heavy. God, that could just be a great lineup right there.
Yeah, I have a Threaded Needle.
Especially if you have Vorpal or Frenzy on that Threaded Needle, especially, I would say.
Yeah, I have Vorpal on my Threaded Needle.
I need to go grind out for more Threaded Needles. I deleted mine, so if anybody sees me running Battlegrounds repeatedly for charges, that's what I'm doing.
Well, can't you just do the Umbral Engram thing in the thing and choose the chosen?
You can, but I bought 8 of those and I got no Threaded Needles out of them. Okay. It makes me a little salty. It's just like what it was during Chosen. God, what was the weapon? I couldn't get it to drop. It wasn't Threaded Needle. It was the other heavy that came out that season. I could not get it to drop for the life of me. And the other weapon was the one that I actually wanted.
Yeah.
I just kept deleting. Like, it became a joke. It was practically as bad as getting Edge Transit as much as we used to.
What? Well, the other heavy... It wasn't Code Duello, was it?
Code Duello.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying. I was trying to get Code Duello with Lasting Impression and Impulse Amplifier. And I finally got it as a Nightfall reward. To this day, I swear to God, I have never gotten a Code Duello out of the fucking Umbral machine.
Oh, dude, ever. you get one from doing one of the seasonal challenges. That was like the first seasonal challenge.
Mine was a terrible roll on it.
Oh, okay.
I got mine day one, and that's how I found it. It came with Impulse Amplifier and Lasting Impression, because my friend Matt got that on his very first drop, and I just fucking screamed. We didn't realize at the time how good it was. We realized it like 2 days later. I'm like, God damn it. So I spent the entire season chasing that stupid rocket launcher. Finally got it when I just sat there and banged out a bunch of Grandmasters at the end. Thank you, Inverted Spire.
God, I hate that strike so much, but it's so easy to grind on.
Dude. I do it in my sleep on GMs now, man. Whirlwind Blade. This was obviously the best sword damage perk around, so while we're fine with it being good at sustained damage, we pulled it back for shorter fights. Increased number of stacks needed to hit maximum damage from 5 to 10. I don't like this. I'm not a big fan of this. Particularly because there already weren't, in my opinion, there weren't a lot of like top tier fights worth using this in anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that. I just ran a Nightfall. I ran a Grandmaster with this a few weeks ago, like a Shadows. But I do think so many of the GMs now are focused on long-range fights that this shouldn't bother me as much, but there's some, like the Zulamach fight in Pit of Heresy, that this is going to annoy me on. Because that is still a viable strat. I think them nerfing this, I think, makes Lament probably, or Caster Swords, a more viable choice now, and I think that's part of the angle here. But I feel like we're getting to a point with swords where why bother running them? Not that they're not still good, but they're pretty clearly outclassed, I think, in the heavy department right now. And that's how I perceive it. That may not be how it is in reality. Again, listen to people who are way smarter than me, but I personally don't see a whole lot of use for Falling Guillotine as much as I may still like it. I think there's personally more use for Lament these days.
Yeah.
Especially with it having the anti-barrier built into it. That's a huge assist. So I'm kind of curious to see if they not necessarily reverse this, but if they like maybe keep that, but then they increase the damage that comes from Whirlwind Blade instead.
Yeah.
Like we said before, high risk, high reward. I got to stand there for 10 swings instead of 5 before I can do a spin attack. Like, I'm going to need some sort of guarantee I'm not going to get completely toasted when I do that. And then Pulse Monitor is our final perk. What if instead of activating on what feels like a fail state, this activated on a state you'll be in almost every encounter, even if you're winning. Changed threshold from activation from 90% health to 30% shield. This now requires much less damage to trigger. Pulse Monitor just like instantly became one of the best perks that I think you can grab.
Yeah.
I'm extremely excited for this perk. Because for a reminder of what Pulse Monitor does, automatically reloads the magazine and improves weapon handling when critically wounded, even when it is stowed. This on an SMG is about to be fucking nutty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can't wait. I need to check the perk pools. I'm not sure if this rolls on Ikelos SMG, but if it does, holy God. This is going to be awesome.
I mean, it probably does, right? Like, it doesn't... I don't think it wouldn't.
This is one of those perks that I have just deleted for so long that I'm like, I see that and I just go, okay, I'm done. I don't want this. I have no need for this. I know it rolls on a lot of sidearms. It rolls on some pulses, on auto rifles. But auto rifles and SMGs that roll this, that's about to be a great, great time. I'm excited to see how this shakes up. This is, for me, this and the change with Vorpal to primary weapons are the two most exciting changes here to me.
Yeah.
And just like instantly, those feel great to me. I would love. I don't think that it rolls with it, but I'd like to. I know Messenger does it. To my knowledge, Messenger does not roll with Vorpal. I'd like to find a good primary pulse that rolls with this. I like running pulses a lot. I want to find a legendary pulse with that, or a legendary scout that's running with Vorpal, because man, that's just going ding, 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 and that's without taking into account any sort of seasonal mods, any charge with light, any new mod systems that are going to come. in Witch Queen. How's weapon crafting going to tie into this? Very, very excited. Very excited for those changes.
Yes.
And mods. We have a couple quick we have 2 mod notes here real fast. Quick access sling. Usage on this mod is very telling. It's extensively used on bows and breach grenade launchers and barely used at all on other weapons. That's true. I do use mine for my primary pretty often. And it has saved me more than a few times, but I get it. At the same time, we pulled down some options players had for improving their swap speed and wanted to make an option available for building towards that on all legendary weapons. Functionality changed. Was plus 100 handling. 0.9 ready stow aim down sights. Now 0.9 ready stow all the time. Change also applies to swap mag perk as they use the same perk behind the scenes. Cool. That's a lot of numbers. Play with that if you want to. Again, quick access, like totally get. I've never heard anybody talk about using this mod. Mm-hmm. And then a change that we talked about probably about a month or 2 ago, which was about they were exploring adding full auto to weapons in the game, making that like it's a default setting.
Yeah.
I really love what they say here. Full auto retrofit. We've seen plenty of requests for an accessibility option allowing full auto fire, particularly fast firing semi-automatic weapons. We have a settings option in the works for the seasons after the Witch Queen launches, but decided to put in a stopgap to help players until we are able to ship it. Please keep these types of suggestions coming. Added full auto retrofit weapon mod that enables full auto while the trigger is held. Usable on hand cannons, sidearms, scout rifles, and pulse rifles. This is unlocked by default for all players. Thank you. Thank you. It can get real tiring in those long fights, just constantly yanking on that trigger, firing your scout or your pulse.
Yeah.
I like this. Same with sidearms.
I love having this.
Very excited.
I love having this on scout rifles and pulse rifles. I want to see the functionality with this on sidearms in the Crucible. Very excited for that. Yeah. I love seeing this on scout rifles and pulse rifles for sure.
Yeah, very exciting. Very, very, very ready for that. Whew, we are through all the Sandbox notes now.
Yeah.
Let's addendum here at the end.
Josh, only 49 minutes to talk about all of those changes. God,
and I blew through that as quickly as I possibly could. The near future. I want to read these off because they have a couple of great bullet points here to keep in mind for the Witch Queen and beyond. We don't like the desire for exotic catalysts is largely driven by orbs of power generation they provide and have something in the works to let players build around that limitation. Good. Keep it coming. Like they noted with the Leviathan's breath catalyst, expect changes like that, like getting Archer's tempo added to an existing catalyst. Awesome. Keep those types of things coming. I like seeing it. Weapon differentiation. If I have 2 Void adaptive hand cannons, one from Suros and one from the latest raid, why do I care about one more than the other? The stats tend to be fairly close. Perk pools can be different, but there are only so many perks, and it's a stretch to say the perk pool gives the weapon its identity. We've got something shipping on all new and reissued weapons in the Witch Queen that addresses this issue directly and are working to expand the same solution to all weapons that drop in the future. I'm very curious to see what this happens. If it's going to be something like, if it drops from a raid, it gets plus 10 handling or something along those lines. If it's Suros, does it get plus 10 impact?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Is it going to be like Foundry specific, activity specific? Like I'm cautiously intrigued by this.
Right. Yeah.
Because that is a question that I've had for myself before too, right?
Yeah. Like what makes a Amalon weapon different from a Haka weapon? You know what I mean? Like except for like the design, I guess, is cooler. You know, the
design usually plays a fire rates play a role into it. Like, and that's only so much. It's like I want to be able to differentiate because like they said, when it comes to dungeons and raids, like all that's thrown out the window.
Mm-hmm.
All that's thrown out. We may use the same basic shape, but it's all thrown out the window then.
Right.
So how do we tell that difference? And I think with weapon crafting, you had to come up with a system for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I look forward to that. We mentioned in the last patch note, we are not done with special ammo economy and PvP and have a further tweak coming out that will bring down the amount of ammo floating around. Exotic primary weapons already advance ammo finder mods much faster, but we want them to feel better in hard PvE content and are adjusting all of them to reach this goal. Thank God. I'm still going through Grandmasters with ammo finders on it, not getting heavy ammo. It's really frustrating. We're
Yeah.
not getting special when I need it for Divinity. Very frustrating for me. And then last but certainly not the least, this is a very exciting sentence for me. We're adjusting exotics, some constantly atop the PvP usage charts in an oppressive way, some that have had their perks limited to a degree that are no longer warranted. We're looking at you, Chaperone. Fuck yeah. Oh my god, I can't wait for Chaperone to get nerfed. I'm over long reaching shotguns. It's been a joke about Chaperone since Destiny 1 that it's the best sniper in the game.
Yeah.
And man, I mentioned this while you stepped away earlier, Corey, but it's gotten oppressive to a way. Like, we got Fellwinter's out of the way. Chaperone is really the last like oppressive feeling shotgun, I think. Like, to a degree that when somebody shoots you, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
If they're like 20 feet away from you and they're pulling the trigger on a shotgun, it's like, oh, well, I know exactly what one they're using. I know exactly what I killed before the screen even tells me.
Yeah.
I don't see Chaperone nearly as much as I did Fellwinter's. And I think a lot of that's due to it being an exotic. And in a way, like, exotics should feel good, but damn, it has way too far of reach.
Plus it sits in that kinetic spot, and I think people want to use other weapons in that kinetic spot, you know?
Well, I mean, I'm fine with it being in the kinetic spot.
No, I am too. I'm just saying, like, in PvP, I think that's why maybe you don't see it as much, as because people would rather use other weapons in that spot.
Yeah, for sure. There is something up at the top that we're gonna go over real quick. I'm looking to see if there's anything towards the bottom that we need to address. Just a little note from Cosmo. Every TWAB leading up to the 30th anniversary will not have this much meat on the bone. I can promise they'll have plenty of gravy and stuffing. So there is going to be a lot more coming. Again, I don't think next week's is going to be big, and I suspect we're not getting one the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But the one on the 3rd of December should be absolutely massive.
Yeah.
That is likely when we'll get the update. The actual, like, look at what the activity is, but I suspect they even want to keep some of that a secret.
Yeah.
So we'll see. The note that Corey talked about at the top of the show, though, that I did not do right away, and it's just because we had so much to get through at the Sandbox.
It's true.
Be true. I want to read all of this that they have here, because I think it's important. It lines up with a lot of what Corey and I believe, what we preach and practice on this show, and in our lives as content creators and just as human beings, right? Be true. Everyone at Bungie, both trans developers and allies alike, stand in support of our transgender and gender nonconforming community. We join the call to end anti-trans violence and discrimination. The stars burn brighter because of your courage, unwavering strength, and pursuit of truth. Ahead of Transgender Awareness Week, which celebrates the lives of the transgender and gender nonconforming community from November 13th through the 19th, we're proud to announce a new Trans Pride emblem, Be True. Your light inspires, helping guide all of us on a path to a better future. May it only shine brighter. As Transgender Awareness Week leads into Transgender Day of Remembrance on the 20th, a day to memorialize the lives lost to transphobic hate and violence, we also recognize the hardships this community faces. We invite anyone and everyone to join us in this remembrance by donning the new emblem below. Unlock it using code ML3FD4ND9 on our website, bungie.net. During the month of November, all profits from the sale of Bungie's Pride Pin will benefit Trans Lifeline in support of their efforts to provide peer support to trans people in crisis through respectful, anonymous, and confidential communication and resources. I've seen so many screenshots today of clans and groups of friends squatting up all wearing this emblem. It's very similar to the Black Lives Matter one and to the Pride emblems that have been in the community for a while now. Mm-hmm. And this is, it's not just overdue, it's needed.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the words to say this right. Gaming is a space where I think a lot of people are still very non-accepting, and it's a vocal minority, right? Mm-hmm. Most of us are like, just be you. Just be here, be you, be yourself, be the best version of yourself that you can be. There is a very vocal minority in this game even, that uses a lot of transphobic phrasing, uses a lot of homophobic phrasing and slurs, racist things, and there's no place for that in this community, right?
There's
And
no place for
I
that in
think
any community. Let's be fair.
no, in any community, especially in, and I mean, like we've all heard the jokes. I mean, but a lot of us live there. Like Corey and I were on Xbox Live back when it was first becoming a thing with Halo 2.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of shit you heard in lobbies from that, Modern Warfare 2, just the stuff that you can't repeat.
Yeah.
Right?
God.
That you were hearing as like a 15-year-old kid, you're like, oh my God, like there are some really damaged and hurtful people.
Oh my gosh, like that, like the Halo lobbies, or like even moving into 360, like Call of Duty lobbies, or like the Gears lobbies, like man.
I mean, they're still bad. They're still bad. Like I've mentioned before on this show how my girlfriend plays online games. She turns her microphone off.
Yeah.
She turns her microphone off. She mutes game chat. All that. She'll even open up her own party and just make it private, so she doesn't have to listen to any of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because and obviously it's not remotely on the same level of people saying racist things to you, homophobic, transphobic things. But she's like, as a woman, when I play, she goes, I get degraded in those lobbies.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, the sexist things that are said to me, the harassment that I receive for being a woman in those playing spaces. That's a large reason why she doesn't play shooters anymore.
Yeah.
And that's I really hate that that's happened, but it's a very real reality.
Yep.
And Corey and I have said it before, as two straight white guys, we have it the absolute easiest on the internet. Like, it's our job to make sure everybody else gets that kind of like just easygoing experience of you can just get on, you can be yourself, you can just play.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, like, gaming should be a place where you come to be able to relax, to find friends, to express yourself, to be yourself without fear of harassment, without fear of intimidation. And I think Bungie is one of the developers who's actively taking steps to make sure that happens with the inclusion. We've seen it. We've seen it for years now. I mean, God, I remember Bungie's humanitarian stuff. I remember all the way back to like Hurricane Katrina. I remember back to the Fight the Flood campaign. And, we've seen what they do through the Bungie Foundation and what they've done with, Black Lives Matter, with transgender awareness now, with Pride Month. How that's not just a phase for them. That's not just like a 2-week thing of, oh, we're all going to post these feel-good things on Twitter. We're going to change our profile pictures for a weekend. It's a lifestyle at that studio, it feels. And so at the risk of sounding, again, like a Bungie fanboy, I admire the steps they're taking at a time when so much in the industry, Activision, Blizzard, and Ubisoft seem to be going backwards.
Yeah, for sure.
That it's nice to see one of the more prolific FPS studios, especially, kind of taking the charge on this, taking the lead, taking the initiative.
It's nice. It's nice to see a company like practice what they preach instead of it being like, oh, we need to say this because we have to say it for PR reasons, because like that's clear. That's what a lot of these companies feel like, and especially recently with, like you said, Ubisoft and Activision Blizzard, especially that right now, right? All that going on, which, when that all happened, Bungie came out and wrote that really kind of reflective letter, and one of the things that stood out was, we're not perfect, but we're trying to take the right steps, and I mean,
the work is never done.
Yeah. So kudos.
That's my takeaway here is the work is never done.
Yeah.
And all we can do is we can just keep, they've started, it's our job to pick up the torch and carry it now.
Yep.
And I love that this emblem is being given away for free. You're not having to pay for it. I think the emblems they've done for, like we said, Black Lives Matter, for Pride Month, and for Transgender Awareness Week now are three of the coolest looking emblems in the game. Mm-hmm. I guess, especially, I love the Pride Month one so much. I really want to get the pin when it comes back in stock. I'm a big pin collector. I have a lot of Bungie pins. I don't have any of the special ones they've sold.
Yeah.
So I really, the next time I make a purchase, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that they have it in stock. I want to get one and put it up on my board over here. But with that, we're gonna get out of the TWAB. I'm going to get my notes pulled up for Lore Corner.
Nothing.
Fair enough.
Lore Corner. Is that?
I'm trying to go through. This is a really long Lore Corner. This is a really long season. In case you haven't grasped
touch. You got Lore Corner.
Oh my God! Don't bring Stan Bush into this. I mean, okay. I guess we'll read from these. I was kind of debating about what I wanted to actually get into, knowing that we have a few weeks before the anniversary event and likely a bunch of new lore dumped on us. We've exhausted a lot of what this season says, so I'm going to go back to some past things that we've missed over the year for December, January, and February, most likely, in addition to the Savathun one shot that I really want to do. But we're going to do the seasonal armor before we go on to that, assuming I pull up the two right ones. There's a story that's set in the Dreaming City. Just to give a bit of background, I'm kind of trying to figure out where this pinpoints exactly in the timeline. I think it occurs near the end of Splicer, from reading it, but I'm not entirely certain on it. It could happen anytime from the time that Mara sees us in the Queen's Court and then pieces out until the end of Splicer. So this is from the Pathfinder's helmet for this season. Eyes open and keep to the horizon. Petra stood at the bordering cliff's edge of the Devalian mists, wrapped in a concealing vapor. Beside her, Ilian, Techian Coven Mother. A deluge of water spilled from deep within the stone below. Gentle tremors rippled through their bodies without notice. The pure sky above them tore like well-worn fabric as fronds of malignant Taken growth crept into the dreaming city. They will be upon us soon. It was not enough to simply halt Oryx's advance, Petra said. She had spent months of conversation building the kindling, an idea in Ilan's thoughts prior to the Battle of Saturn. A new coven, a new class of sister recruits. Now with the Queen's flagship in ruins and the coven missing several of its most skilled techians, there's no longer the luxury of refusal. I cannot hold the reef with crosshairs alone. I cannot search for the Queen with looking glasses and a depleted armada. We need more techians, Ilan. You know I'm right. Ilan shook her head. We are not weapons for the Queen's wrath to command. The Coven's reluctance to forge the next link in the chain of their lineage was a strong one. Since the formation of Luciana and the exploitation of Riven, God, the elder techians had grown protective of their arts. Techniques and texts were kept close. Despite all that, Petra knew Ilan had always been listening to her words. She too had dreamt of the Harbinger's failure, of Oryx taking her sisters. We will snap shut the ley lines and seal the city, Ilan concluded. No, Petra retorted. The Queen is lost and might still return. She turned to the Coven Mother. Of your 7, how many are still alive? Petra felt a mournful flame stoking beneath Ilan's visor. Precisely, Ilan said. We haven't the strength. Then heed my requests. Petra waved away the mist between them. Train more sisters. Ilan finally broke her gaze at the sky and scowled at Petra. We haven't the time. Training spans decades. Make it work, Petra demanded before taking a breath and continuing. Ilan, I will do whatever you need. Please, can we work through this together? Ilan's head sunk. She leaned over the cliffside, over the stream of plummeting mist, and watched the flow of water drop into endlessness. Send me your candidates. I hope they are stronger than you were.
Ooh.
So this is... I was incorrect. This takes place after the events of the Taken King, but before Forsaken. But this is a story that spans several years. I think probably the most revealing piece of information is... So we already knew that several Techians were taken during the Battle of Saturn. That was when Shirochi and Sadia were taken. And then Oryx placed them there in the Dreaming City with Riven. I think the most interesting piece of information that we get is that Petra, at one point, it's implied, trained to become a Techian. Maybe, and I'm gonna have to refresh myself on Petra's lore, but maybe that's part of the reason why she has to wear the eye patch now. Maybe something went horribly wrong in her training.
Right.
I think that would be really cool, but she's yeah, she's the queen or Queen's Wrath. She is literally Mara's right-hand person.
Mm-hmm.
She is the Queen's personal bodyguard, essentially. And I think few characters are as loyal in this universe as Petra is to Mara. I definitely do not think that is reciprocated. I think if it was between Mara saving Petra and saving her own skin, she saves herself 10 out of 10 times.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Petra
is
I like this. Like,
Petra's she's just like, man, every scene she's in, she kind of commands it if Mara's not in it, right?
She dominates it.
Yeah.
She dominates the scenery. And I love, we got her introduced in House of Wolves. She's introduced in one of the earliest expansions.
Mm-hmm.
She plays a role in The Taken King, obviously, as a quest giver primarily. And the dialogue she gives during that is great.
Yeah.
During all her on-screen dialogue. But Forsaken really puts her front and center. She's with us, Eris Morn style, for the duration of the campaign.
Right.
And then, becomes the permanent vendor on the Tangled Shore afterwards. I think it's so great to see. And see the evolution of that character. We really haven't spent a lot of time with her since Forsaken. I'm glad she's back front and center in this season. I don't know that this season quite works without her. Even though she kind of has a bit role. It's similar to how Saladin had one in Siege of the Chosen, or really how Crow had one in Chosen. He was just kind of like hiding out in the tower, chatting with us occasionally, and he has his one or two big moments saving Zavala. I feel like we've kind of hit that with Petra. Like, Petra has dialogue with us in some of the Blind Well missions. She had some in the Festival of the Lost. I'm sure she'll have some stuff in the Dawning. But she's had one or two really key interactions with Crow and Mara that have just set the scene for what is surely coming in the Witch Queen.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So we're going to read the second one. The grips. Place your fingers on the pulse of this place. Find rhythm and synchronize. Okay, I'm going to try and pronounce this name without butchering it, but Bife probably has the definitive pronunciation on this.
I believe in you, Josh.
Yalea, that's what we're going to call her.
Oh, that's...
Placed her... Yalea.
That sounds right.
Or Leia, I don't know. Yalea. Placed her hands on the focusing crystal once more. It had been months since she had seen the stars. Her view every day was instead of the same stone chamber she shared with 12 others. It doubles as both training ground and lodging for a new group of techians. The mustiness made Yalea crave... Yalea. God! There's no R in it. Yalea crave the open air of the dreaming city's skyward turrets. She imagined them piercing the sky like masts and drawing the clouds into sails. In her mind, the whole city sailed through the ascendant ocean, navigating the ley lines like currents. Yalea placed herself there, a voyage, a turret crow's nest in search of a distant land, ascendant anchors restraining cloud sail billows against the wind of her will. She tried to introduce that place to this one, to let them meet and exchange atmosphere. Make this real, she thought. But it was nothing more than thought. The concepts were familiar, but the execution was still foreign. Yalea adjusted the crystal in her hands, as if the orientation mattered. Of all her sisters, only she still couldn't shape the ley lines. They're going to shift soon, you know, Austin chided. I know, Yalea spat back without looking. An explosion shook the room, raining plumes of dust over them and breaking her concentration. Damn it! Yalea slammed a fist into the smooth stone and cast the crystal orb across the floor. Why are we training in a war zone? Austin watched the crystal skip to the edge of the chamber. This place is built upon a crossroads of ley lines. If you can't align with them here, don't say it, Yalea hissed as she stood to retrieve the crystal. I need to try again. As she walked, the wall before her illuminated and split into a doorway. Petra Venge entered the chamber, haggard, soot, dulling the sheen of her armor. Yalea stopped in her tracks. She hid away her embarrassment despite knowing Petra hadn't seen her cast away the focusing crystal. Petra's foot tapped the crystal. She bent and scooped this from the ground and looked to Yalea's empty hands. Do not lose this. There aren't many left. My apologies. I need to try again. Petra scanned the faces of each of the 13 would-be techians before her. The creases beneath their eyes drew deeper from stress and lack of sleep. I had trouble just the same. Let me show you. So I think that's, again, this adds another layer. Like, even though Petra's just at the end, this adds another layer to her story. Can she still help shift the ley lines despite not being a true techian? Because we know we've rescued so many Techians now in the Ascendant Plane, and we know that Sadia is one of the... But she's like the high Techian or something. Yeah. And will presumably be helping Mara lead the ritual to get Savathun out of the crystal.
Right.
I do wonder if we're going to see... Because I haven't read 3 and 4. I've read number 5. I haven't read 3 and 4. I look forward to seeing, like, do some of these characters not make it out of here? And is that why do Petra, Mara, and Sadia kind of, maybe even Shuro-Chi, do they fill out the rest of the circle of Techians that are in Mara's chambers right now?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the most intriguing thing. Like, these are NPCs that we've encountered, that we've saved, that we've done missions with. Are we going to get a purpose for them again or not?
Yeah.
It would go a long way, as I think, towards making the strikes seem like legitimate story content. Like, oh, okay, so that the Techian that we rescued, that we had to keep alive when she was taken, is still around. She's still doing things.
Right. Yeah.
Same with Shuro-Chi.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just real quick lore corner. Just kind of short, sweet, and to the point. We're going to do the next 2 pieces next week.
Cool. Yeah, I like this. I like this section of lore. I always think that this, like, the reef and the characters surrounding Mara are fascinating, because, like, as much as we've been with them, right, and Crow, really, like Aldrin, I guess, then Crow, like, there's not a lot of awoken characters that we, like, have deep lore with, right? So, I think exploring the Techians and
that are outside of the tower.
Yeah. That's what I meant, So, yeah. Super interesting. Good choice, Josh. Good choice. Look at you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Get us out, Corey.
All right, we're going to get out of here. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. Thank you, Joasis, for your question. Remember, if you want to ask a question to this show, you can tweet at us at Tower Casuals or email the show at towercasuals@gmail.com. Josh, thank you for your time tonight. Where can we find you?
Twitter, at Josh_Finn, 2 N's.
Yes.
Ready for that Xbox and Halo anniversary event on Monday morning.
Ooh, yeah. I'm excited too. Well, if your Xbox shows up, I guess.
Yeah, guys, I'm really getting for. I need Microsoft to hurry up and ship my Halo Infinite Xbox. It's supposed to be here on Monday and it hasn't shipped. But they wasted no time taking my $600 out of my account.
What are you doing with the other one?
So, we haven't decided yet. Chelsea has not decided if she wants to keep it or if she wants to keep her Series S instead. If she decides she's going to keep her Series S, I have promised the Series X to A1 Johnny.
Cool.
So...
Cool. Well, you can find me at IamCorianHD on Twitter and Instagram, and Xbox, I guess, too. I guess I could say that. You can find the show every Friday morning on your podcast service of choice. I notice a lot of you wait till Monday to listen to the show, so we are here all weekend for your listening pleasure.
We are, in fact, here all weekend. Send your questions at Tower Casuals on Twitter. Join the conversation.
Not to get, like, too into the numbers, because, like, it's the numbers, but, like, sometimes I look at the stats on Friday or Saturday, I'm like, oh, this might be, like, a low week for us, just because, obviously, like, Destiny's kind of in a lull right now before the 30th anniversary stuff. But then, like, on Tuesday, I'll check in, I'm like, holy shit. So...
Yeah, it's always a good feeling when we see that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to have a show with a long tail.
It is.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. Remember to like, subscribe, share, rate, and review wherever you consume the show. And we will see you next week. Goodbye.